Lovely, Mr. Mafia. Have you finished with the charge sheet?
Yep. T-posing.
Mr. Mafia, if you would please bring the charge sheet to me and we can begin. Lovely, thank you very much. If then we could please have everybody take their seats and we shall begin. What do we have? Oh, absolutely delightful. Can't say I'm looking forward to this one. Right, order in the court, order in the court. Hello there and welcome to VR Court. Judge Ekron sitting for the first time in a month to hear the crimes against Miss Snowy 8656, therefore referred to as Miss Snowy, who is accused by the prosecution of the heinous crime of T-posing. Now, I will allow secondary crimes to be added onto this to make it a more interesting crime. For example, perhaps they were T-posing whilst committing horrific murder with their penis. I don't know. That's up for the prosecution to come up with. But in the meantime, we shall stick with a simple T-posing charge, and therefore, Miss Snowy, bearing in mind that one of them is among us, how do you plead for this heinous crime?
Guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty. Very well then, in that case we shall enter a plea of not guilty into the courtroom and shall proceed on to a judge-ruled court. In this courtroom I will be the judge, jury and execution, if you will, as we do not have enough members of the audience to produce a jury. Mr. Mafia, in the back room you will be using Podium 1 to 4 to place your evidence on to build your case. Mr. Atlas, in the back room, you shall be using podium number 5 to 8. You've got 1 to 4, you've got 5 to 8 to build your case upon. In that case, then, I shall be handing the floor over now to the lawyers in... Then, can I change this? Oh, God, no. What? What the fuck was that? I appear to be floating. I'm going to hand the floor over now to Mr. Mafia to present his opening statement to the court. Mr. Mafia, if you will please present your opening statement to the court.
I can stand in the center and everything?
You can go wherever the hell you want as long as it's not behind me or up here.
Alright. So, I'm sure a lot of you are asking right now, why are we here today? T-posing. Doesn't sound like a very serious crime. But the circumstances surrounding this crime are why we are here today.
Oh God.
Miss Snowy, please shut up.
The place that she was at,
Okay.
and the actions that were committed during her T-posing episode are what have brought us here today. Am I supposed to also be...
No. If you want to leave it at that, you know, you've laid out that there are extra things brought onto this T-pose. You've set the floor, but you haven't given anything away. It's quite a nice opening statement, really. You can just quite happily go and I'm done and piss off, and that's absolutely fine.
All right, I am pissing off.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for your opening statement, Mr. Mafia. As I mentioned there, that's really set the bar quite high for this case, and I really do think we might be onto a winner with this one, Mr. Tiro. What a comeback. Thank you, Mr. Mafia. I'm now going to lend the floor to Mr. Atlas to present his full and frank case to the courtroom. Mr. Atlas, with your lovely assistant, whatever her name was, Sally Susan Woman, please do present your full and frank case. Not case, sorry, opening statement. Apologies.
Let me just move my chair up. Right. Okay, I'm just gonna hold this because it's just like a hand gesture.
That's absolutely fine.
Okay. So, Your Honor. Okay, so surely you know my name already. Well, okay. It's my first actual court case to a state law, and I'm prepared to offer all I have in evidence and evidence to prove that Snowy is not guilty of T-posing. Now, although I'm in this room, I am against Beard, my mafia. I fully respect him and his job, for we have the same position. Yep. That's all I say is my speech. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Atlas. You may return to your seat. Well, two fairly interesting opening statements there. One laying out a foundation for a case, which was quite interesting, and one doing something I haven't noticed before, which was an actual talking about the lawyer and his qualifications, which is a new one. I do notice that we have some rather interesting members of the gallery throwing money everywhere. I'd like to point out that attempting to bribe the judge is a punishment worthy of the death penalty, so please don't attempt to bribe the judge. I'm a robot. I don't have any needs for your human or mushroom type money. But now that opening statements have been completed, that means that we can move on to the full and frank cases of the defense and the prosecution. And as I mentioned before,
I mean, we'll take the money, but you're still gonna fucking die.
Oh yes, we'll take the money. You just don't get anything for it. Capitalism, alright? Anyway, so we are now going to hand the floor over to Mr. Atlas to present his full and frank case as he sees fit. Mr. Mafia, you may object to following the rules as you see fit. Mr. Atlas, the floor belongs to you. Not literally, don't take it home with you.
No, I wasn't planning. Did you know? Let me just remove that. Well, okay, so get myself mindset. Am I allowed to present evidence?
Yes, this is where you present all of your evidence, your whole case. This is the time to shine.
Got it. Okay, right, got it. Okay, so I'm reading here on my information tablet that Snowy was accused of T-posing, which we know is the lowest form of a can be. Okay? And of course, Snowy here, she's a fan. Okay? She's a loving person. She would never do such thing. Okay, so I would like to present my evidence. Okay, I would like to bring into evidence.
You had
Podium
5 to 8.
number 5. 5, please.
You had 5 to 8 with your numbers. Would you like number 5?
Yep.
Number
Yes,
5.
please.
Ooh.
Okay, number 5. Now, as you can see here, this is over a large scale. So when Snowy first bought VRchat, okay? So I have the copy there, and that is a photo of her and her friends. She's the alien. Okay, and so she was always quite fond of using full body tracking, and as you know, you would T-pose full body tracking. So, yes. So after she was thinking about getting full body tracking, talking with her friends, okay? Right. And she was like, right, I'm going to get a copy of this. I'm going to go get some full body vibe tracking. And she owns a HTC Vive headset. I would like to present an evidence. Podium number 6.
Number 6.
Okay. So as you can see here, there are multiple full body tracking Vive sets, 3 in fact, that she purchased with the credit card and instant cash. And I also left a receipt there. Back to her card details. So this is leading up to the fact that you can't T-pose in full body tracking. This is my whole case. Okay. And okay. Yeah, so I have a fingerprint scanner to prove that that is in fact her vibe tracking. You can scan and see her fingerprints.
So I'm going to interrupt you there, Mr. Atlas, I'm afraid. Mr. Tiro, would you please go and fetch the fingerprint scanner from the back room? So that fingerprint scanner, if I may interrupt your case for a moment, is an actual fingerprint scanner that already has all of the fingerprints of the accused and the fingerprints from the devices that you and the prosecution are accusing the victim, or the accused, whoever, of handling. Therefore, your statement of if these actually belong to her via fingerprints can be tested in court here and now. This is something I didn't mention because I like surprising people with little tidbits like this because I'm a dick. Thank you, Mr. Tiro. Now, yes, it does work. Right. Oh, I have to go do the bloody camera thing. Right, so, this is a nice, simple thing. You're saying that the tracker had the fingerprints of your client on them to prove it was hers, correct?
Correct.
Right, lovely. It's Snowy. I'm going to put this in front of you, and all you need to do is put your finger on there, please. Please place your finger on the button and leave the device on the table. That's not on the table, that's in your hand. That's a positive identity. I'd like to point out to Prosecution and Defense this is 100% random, meaning that indeed the fingerprints of your client are on the Vive trackers, which means we can assume that they have at least, if not belonging to her, have been handled by her in the past. Thank you for your slight disruption. Do bear in mind the Fingerprint Scanner is available for use by any of the lawyers. Apologies for the interruption. Mr. Atlas, please carry on with your case.
No worries, Your Honor. Okay. I also brought the receipt that came with her purchase when she bought the Vive tracker. As you can see, top left of the screen. It shows all the details, confirming, along with the credit card, and the total cost. Okay. Now, here we get to the interesting part, okay? Just to solidify the fact that my client, Snowy, is in fact innocent. Okay, can you please, Your Honour, go to the next evidence podium?
There we go.
Thank you very much. Now, okay, as you can see, the reason why Snowy really wanted the full Vive tracking, as you can see in evidence number 7, with some aliens. Okay, and that is an in fact photo in the red pug, and in the back was the grey pug. Okay, so this was given to me by a witness. And as she was using full body trackers, okay, moving around, she accidentally punched the clock off the wall, and it smashed. I would also like to bring into evidence a recording from the microphone in the headset of her punching the clock.
Mr. Tiro, would you go and fetch that device from the back room, please, so we can hear the recording? I do like having a court assistant to do this for me.
I am having a little bit of trouble hearing you. I can hear you, but like just barely.
Mr. Mafia, if you'd like to physically stand up and go closer to him, you're more than welcome to do so.
I can stand over here. This is okay.
Or if you want to stand over there,
Yeah, no,
Mr.
I can hear you
Atlas.
perfectly. It's just when you get all the way over to the other side, it's a little tough.
That's understandable. It is a problem with this room, to be fair. You stand where you need to stand to hear each other. I'm just filming for shits and giggles, so don't worry about it too much. Thank you, Mr. Tiro. So you're saying that this recording was from the headset of the accused whilst they punched this clock, is that correct?
Of course, yes. It was also witnessed by someone in the ground. That is not...
Yeah, but they don't know.
Well, I promise you I didn't hit the reset button. I simply hit the stop and play, which is the standard procedure. But, I mean, I know what sound effect you were going for, but this is the sound effect that has been entered into evidence, so that's an interesting one for certain. But do carry on with your case, Mr. Atlas.
Thank you very much, Your Honour. Now, so, my client Snowy was horrified. She was shocked at her mother's clock was smashed along her apartment floor. Okay. So, what she did is she took off all of her equipment, all of full body tracking, the headset. She started to clean up everything. Okay? Clean it all up. However, it's still smashing now. It does not work this
Hello
day.
there.
So, I would like to present into evidence podium number 8, please. So, after doing all of that work, okay, nothing to do with deposing, reinforcing the fact, she decided to have some dinner. So I have a mug, okay, she drank from. I was going to present the fingerprint now.
Would you like to do a fingerprint scanner or not?
I would love to do a fingerprint scan, Your Honor.
Mr. Tira, I'll let you go and do this one on the desk. It's the mug. I'll just beep, beep, boop, beep, boop. There you go. It's all set up. Take it down to the accused and get them to do it, please. So we're testing for fingerprints on the mug. I mean, to be fair, this probably could have passed if you didn't do a fingerprint scanner, but you've asked.
You want me to get the mug?
No, 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 no. Just take it down to Miss Snowy and get her to put her finger on the device. The device is already programmed with fingerprints recovered from the mug. Don't ask how we do it. Advanced protogen technology. Same procedure, Miss Snowy. Another yes. Yes, so that came up as approved, so yes, this mug has been handled by the accused. Carry on, Mr. Atlas, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, she decides to eat some pizza, a nice fuck at it. As you can test, that is also in evidence with an apple. Don't know if she tries to even eat it. Now, after that, she decided to go to bed quite earlier than the time she was accused of T-posing. So, our case is built around the fact that she couldn't possibly have been there T-posing. She's lying. Now, she decided to brush her teeth using that toothpaste there, with the toothbrush and the hair comb. She used to brushed her hair with it. You can see that there's still some hair on it matching hers. And a sock. Everyone knows, once you put a sock in evidence, it's game over. Okay, I would like to conclude my evidence, Your Honor.
Okay, and does that conclude your case then, Mr. Atlas?
It does, Your Honor. I believe I've solidified Snowy's innocence as much as I can, using the evidence all I could.
Lovely! In that case, thank you very much, Mr. Atlas. If you will be kind enough to take a seat once again on your stand, I would appreciate that.
Thank you.
An interesting case, I'm not going to lie. Very heavily built around what Miss Snowy was doing at the time, or that she was accused of T-posing, and how it is impossible to T-pose in a full-body tracker. Mr. Tiro, I wonder if you might be kind enough to look that up on Google for me at some point, if you don't mind. So a very
Google
interesting
what again?
case. Look up if you can do a T-pose in full-body tracking, please, on the Google. Just for my own knowledge, this isn't actually relevant to the case. I'm genuinely curious now. I don't have full-body tracking. I have mixed reality because I'm cheap. Right. Thank you for your case, Mr. Atlas. Very interesting case. I'm now going to hand the floor over to Mr. Mafia as the prosecution to make his full and frank case as he sees fit, presenting evidence. Mr. Atlas, you may object to the words of Mr. Mafia as you see fit following the objection rules, but you may not finger your girlfriend. Mr. Mafia, the floor belongs to you.
Okay. So, I'm sure we've seen all of the evidence that has been displayed on the monitor and on multiple tablets to us that is supposed to imply that our character over here, our person who is being accused, was not T-posing. The evidence of a full-body tracker doesn't necessarily mean that she was wearing the trackers when she committed the crime of T-posing. This is what I like to call a red herring. It's pretty common in philosophy or like law to use a red herring to distract somebody else and make them think that the point that's being made is relevant to what's going on when it's actually not. This evidence that was presented has almost nothing to do with the incident of her T-posing. She may have full-body trackers. She may have even purchased them before she committed the crime of T-posing, but that does not mean that she was wearing those trackers at that time. I would like to bring up my first podium of evidence, whenever you're ready. A cigarette and a Zippo lighter. This was discovered at the crime scene where she was T-posing, probably because it was a little bit more difficult to hold things when you don't have full body tracking. Outside of a bank. She may have gone to that bank that day when a robbery occurred, It may have been before, it may have been after, maybe she misplaced that stuff. But when you look over at Podium 2, we see a screwdriver and a cellular phone, where in her spastic T-posing outburst, she attacked a fellow customer at the bank who attempted to thwart the robbery that she was staging during that time. Maybe she thought that T-posing would make her a little less likely to be a suspect because, hey, I have full body tracking. I can't possibly be T-posing on that day if I have full body trackers. Why would anybody assume that I'm the one committing this crime? Podium 3. A gun and a badge of an officer who is no longer with us. Say what you want about the police. That man had a wife, kids, people that cared about him, loved him, and he is not with us anymore. Podium 4. We see a key that was used to open the cash register, as well as a wad of cash and a sample of the many gold coins that were stolen out of the vault of the bank that was robbed on that day. I would like to test the majority of this evidence for fingerprints, although it is possible that the suspect was wearing gloves.
Okay, so fingerprint scanning, what exactly are we going to scan? I'll give you 3 for your evidence.
I would like to scan the screwdriver.
This screwdriver, which I believe was podium number 2, right, Miss Tyrion? Let me just quickly set it up. Beep, boop, beep, boop. Right, take it over there and get Miss Snowy to do the fingerprint identification on the screwdriver, please. If you would not mind. Same job as always. Turn it to me. What was it? I didn't see.
It was green.
It was green, which means the fingerprints did indeed appear on the screwdriver. There the hell, your fingerprints are absolutely everywhere. Are they the fingerprints that are currently stuck on my face? There'll be trouble if they are. Is there any other evidence you'd like to test for fingerprints, Mr. Mafia?
I'd like to test that lighter as well, just to try and solidify the case a little bit more.
The lighter! Right, Mr. Tiro, I've shown you how to set the machine up. Please set the machine up before you give it to her. Correct. You've got to go beep boop as well, but that'll do. Miss Snowy, once again, push the big button. Also, a match, indicating that the accused has handled this lighter at some point. Good lord, it's all coming up green today. Are we actually going to see any kind of
Which
red?
certainly makes sense, you know. You're about to commit something that's very nerve-wracking. You need something to calm your nerves. A cigarette might do that. Maybe she fumbled, dropped it, got a little nervous.
Well, you've had 2 out of 2, Mr. Mafia. Are you going to risk a 3 out of 3 with the money or not?
Sure.
What exact part, it was number 4, what exact item are you testing here? Oh, it's a dough coin, I didn't see that. The ring, the cash money, the gold coin, the key.
I will test the cash.
The cash money, cash money. Mr. Tiru, you've got to set this one up by waving it. No, you've got to do it like this, Mr. Tiru. Like this. You've got to wave it above your head like this and go boop, 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 boop. Yes, that'll do. Righto, then go ahead with it. I love being the judge. I get to get people to move shit like that. What was it?
It was green again.
So that was also a match, meaning that pretty much every piece of evidence we've seen today has the fingerprints of the accused on it, which is, interesting. Mr. Mafia, if I may quickly ask a question in relation to the judging, where exactly was this money recovered from?
Well, the money was recovered from a trash can outside of the bank, actually. I think she might have dumped it there to try and... You know how like people sometimes will take a gun and they'll throw it on the roof of a building to hide the evidence when they're being chased by the police after they've just committed a murder or a shooting or think that they might be implicated in something? I feel like that was the very same thing she did, but since she had a lot of cash, she probably, she's pretty small, not strong enough to really launch that shit onto a roof. So, maybe she dumped it into a trash can, thought she'd be able to come back for it later. Thought that she wouldn't even be suspected of any of that.
Go ahead, Mr. Atlas.
Mr. Mafia, if you will, do you have any timestamps reinforcing your case as to when my client, Miss Snowy, was supposedly robbing the bank?
Am I allowed to bring in an eyewitness?
Who would your eyewitness be, as we're not technically in eyewitness questioning at this moment in time?
I will wait then.
I may allow you to bring a witness in, although we do currently have 2 witnesses standing as it is, and I don't want witness questioning to go on for too long. But okay, thank you for your objection, Mr. Atlas. Mr. Mafia, you may continue as you see fit.
Regardless of the timestamp, I think that we have an overwhelming amount of evidence here that she was at that place at that time. There are multiple pieces of DNA evidence that link her to that location. I don't even think we need any timestamps at this point to prove that she was there. When somebody commits a murder, if it wasn't videotaped, that there were no text messages during that time. If there are no timestamps, the case doesn't just get thrown out. If there is an overwhelming amount of biological evidence connecting her to that location, then the time just seems like it would fall in place along with that.
Does that bring your case to a
That's it.
close, Mr. Mafia?
I don't have anything else to say.
Lovely! If you'd be kind enough to take a seat then, Mr. Mafia. And with that, we have both cases presented, and genuinely very interesting cases to say the least. On one side, we've got a lot of good pieces put forward to explain how and why she was playing VR and accidentally knocked a clock off the wall and then shot it, and I think the prosecution has missed a trick there, but we'll come back to that one later. And on the prosecution side, we've got actually she was robbing a fucking bank. Just robbing a bank whilst T-posing. Oh, fair enough, alright, whatever. So, very interesting cases as presented by the prosecution's defence. Very pleased with the cases presented from new junior lawyers, if you will. We're now going to move the court on to the next part, which is, of course, witness questioning. Now, currently, we have 2 witnesses to view. We have Miss Snowy herself, who is obviously a somewhat tainted witness, as she is also the accused, but we cannot allow her to not have her say. And we have Mr. Mick, who is a acquaintance who has worked with Miss Snowy in one of her previous ship's assignments, who will be acting as a character witness, not necessarily a witness to the crime, unless all of a sudden he is a witness to the crime, but we'll get to that one as we go. So, Mr. Mafia, as the prosecution, which witness would you like to call to the stand first?
So we have Snowy and we have
Mr. Mick. That guy Mick.
Mr. Okay. Well, I will call Mr. Mick to the witness stand.
Very well, Miss Snowy, if you would please go and take a seat with your lawyer. Mr. Mick, I'm going to unmute you now. I appreciate that. I didn't really want to mute you, but noise. And then I will let you in. Mr. Mick, I will politely request that you take a seat on the gallery. Anybody who enters otherwise will probably be kicked from the room because I'm not in the mood. Mr. Mick, take a seat. Lovely! Welcome to court, Mr. Mick. Yes, you can stand, seat, whatever works. Oh, it's weird seeing those things with hands. Right! Now, before witness questioning can really go ahead, and as I said, Mr. Mick, are you acting as a character witness or a witness to the crime? Just before we carry on.
I am a character witness.
So we have a character witness here, so he did not necessarily witness the crime, but may be useful to the prosecution or the defence to establish the character of the accused as he is an acquaintance. Now, before we carry on, we must do the Pledge of Honesty. This is a very simple procedure. Mr. Mick, I need you to repeat after me to swear you in to speak honestly and truthfully. Are you ready, Mr. Mick?
Are you ready, Mr. McMick?
That's one of the smartest and most annoying answers I've heard there, and I almost kind of want to give him a pass for that. That guy Mick,
I, that guy Mick,
promise to tell the truth,
promise to tell the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth,
and nothing but the truth,
lest when somebody calls an emergency meeting,
lest when somebody calls an emergency meeting,
I will be accused of being an imposter
I will be accused of being an imposter
and being ejected from the ship
and being ejected from the ship
25 seconds into a fucking game.
like 5 seconds into a game.
Fuck you, Orange! Fuck you, Orange, you fucking idiot!
It's usually white for me, but whatever.
State this line of questioning from the record, please.
So help me God.
Sorry, I really wanted to say that.
So help me God.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Mick. Now, you are a character witness as such, so I will not be asking for your actual witness statement as you haven't got one. I'm going to hand the floor over to Mr. Mafia to ask you any questions that he sees fit. Mr. Mafia, I suggest you actually walk up to him so he can hear you for certain, ask him the defense. Mr. Alice, you may object to any kind of questioning that you find dumb if you see fit. Floor's yours, Mr. Mafia.
Okay. So you are a character witness.
Yeah.
So you know Miss Snowy 8656.
I do indeed.
And you are here to make an appeal to her character.
Yes.
But you were not there when the crime was committed, is that correct?
I don't know if there was a crime committed. I was not present the day it was said to be committed.
But what were you doing on that day?
I was fixing wiring in admin.
Were you?
Yeah.
And how do you know Miss Snowy? How did you meet her? How have you made acquaintances with this woman?
She watched me do mid-bay scan, and then I stayed and watched her do mid-bay scan, so I know that she's innocent as well as me.
Ah. So she has an interest in the workings of different electronics and mechanisms, right? Like maybe locks for safes,
Yeah.
you know, and the keys that go to them. You know, the way things kind of connect together to form a whole.
I don't know about lock or safes, but definitely wires.
Hello, Dad. Did someone just randomly shout objection, or?
No, somebody said hello there.
Ignore them.
Carry on.
Okay, I thought I heard objection.
Hello there.
Mr. Puro sitting in the front, I'm going to politely request you shut the fuck up. Thank you very much.
And how did she behave when you showed her these different things about the inner workings of the ship and how things work and how to do all these different tasks that are involved?
She was interested at first, and then the longer tasks she kind of got bored of, so she went to go do something else. I don't know what she went to do, but she wasn't following me for like starting reactors.
Did you have anybody on that ship that was particularly familiar with breaking into different structures or edifices?
I don't know if there's anybody confirmed, but Green was a little suspect.
You know what's going on here?
And do you know if she ever interacted with this Green?
I saw her standing next to him once, but I thought they were both uploading data to headquarters.
And how were they behaving when they were standing next to each other, knowing that other people were watching them interact?
They were kind of silent when I walked by, and then they started talking after I went around the corner.
Were they making eye contact with you? Was their body language kind of reserved? Did they seem like they were outgoing, or maybe that they had something that possibly they didn't want to talk about, or they didn't want people to know because of the implication?
No, I think they heard me coming down the hall, and then they just stopped talking. I didn't see any suspicious movement or anything.
Oh, you're a soldier.
You know, normally when you're having a conversation, and then somebody not a part of that conversation walks up to you, and you just stay silent the entire time. I mean, did they say hi, or did they seem like they just didn't want their conversation to be heard? Did you overhear
Snowy
anything that
said
they were
hi.
talking about, perhaps?
No, he said hi. I don't know about.
But was it like they were happy to see you, or was it more like, oh hi, yeah?
It was
didn't
more like
see
a
you there.
mundane, like,
Hmm. Okay. Alright. Has Green been known to do anything particularly suspect before meeting this woman?
The round before the round that she joined, Green was one of the imposters, but he was new to the game, so he didn't really know much about how to be an imposter, so he got caught right away.
And do you know how they were introduced to each other?
No, I think they just walked into the same room and started talking.
There was no conversation starter, nothing that sparked an interest in a friendship with a Miss Snowy 8656 who potentially committed crimes that Green could have assisted her in the knowledge of committing?
Not that I know of.
Is there
You have no
anything
evidence?
that you could possibly provide to me that might help us have a bit more clarity in this case and what is going on right now?
Not that I can think of at the moment.
No further questions.
Very good, Mr. Mafia, very good. Mr. Blue Atlas, although the witness has said he has nothing useful to add, would you like to cross-examine the witness?
I would, yes.
Please do take a stand next to him and do your cross-examination. Mr. Mafia, you may object as you see fit following the objection rules.
Okay.
Okay. Now. Red. May I call you Red? That's alright. Now, so you explained that you were on the ship, with other, how would you say, passengers, along with Green
Roommate.
and Snowy. Roommate.
Yep.
Now, and you remember saying that, Green had chances of being an imposter. Seems
He
suspicious.
was the imposter. He was previously the imposter and finished the round without him having been confirmed the imposter that game.
Okay. Well, and you also talked about how Snowy and Green were, how would you say, awfully close.
Yeah.
Well, so I would like to talk about how the chances of being an imposter, based on how many people are in the game, say 10 people. Right, that is an extremely low chance, especially, as you said,
There's a
Being a-
5 out of 10 chance that you'll get imposter from people.
depending on how many are chosen.
Yeah. In this case, it was 2. That's the game we were playing.
Now, so you also
One moment,
mentioned
Mr.
that you
Atlas.
know this-
One moment, Mr. Atlas. Mr. Mafia, go ahead with your objection.
I would like a clarification on whether or not you said that the behavior of Green was suspect, or that they just happened to be suspect one time, because it sounded like you were telling me that the behavior of Green was suspect, and not just that they were suspect at one point. Of course, everybody is suspect when they are randomly chosen to be so, in your predicament, in your situation, but I don't really think that is what you told me.
Green was both.
Because we were
imposter
talking
last
about
round,
character.
which made
We
him
weren't
50.
talking about random chance.
Well, he brought up him, not me.
But this was more about the
Green was
relationship
imposter
with
the
her
round
and Green.
before. Shut up. Green was the imposter the round before Green and Snowy met. But I don't know about any
And
future
did
imposter
Green
in Green.
did Green win that round?
the crewmates won the round, and Green was on the roster of the crewmates.
But how many crewmates were taken out before victory was achieved? Would you say that Green was a particularly proficient suspect?
Green was being sussed the entire round, but it turns out he was not the imposter that round.
I'm going to interrupt you now,
His
Mr.
behavior was
Mafia.
suspicious.
Mr. Mafia,
Okay.
going to interrupt you now. We've kind of overstepped the bounds of a simple objection into you questioning him again, and your time for that has passed. Mr. Atlas, please carry on with your questioning.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Red, you did mention that you were previously friends with Snowy?
Yeah.
Now, have you played, you've been playing VRchat with her, correct?
I have, yeah.
So, let's say, maybe, have you played with her within the last week?
It was actually 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Now, using evidence from the receipt I brought on Podium, 6, I think, or 5?
6.
Yes, there you go, as you can see. The time Snowy purchased the headset along separately with the full body vibe tracking, you can see matches the alibi of Red. Therefore, I'll tell the truth, of course, that means timestamp there, we'll talk about timestamps now. Were you there as a witness to see Snowy in full body tracking?
I did
Have you
walk
seen
in. I walked in once because I was on my way to do another task. So I can confirm they were in full body.
And did you witness or hear glass smash or her punch a clock?
No, I was all the way in navigation by the time that happened, assuming it did.
So, now. I didn't think this was going to be all wrapped around Among Us. I thought it was going to be VRchat. I had a whole idea. Never mind.
Welcome to
Yeah,
courtroom,
it's really
where shit goes fucked up really, really quickly.
Yes. Now. Okay. So, confirming you have seen Snowy in full body tracking past the timestamp from the receipt which I showed as evidence.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, so am I only questioning the, say, character witness?
Well,
And
he
am
hasn't
I
seen
correct?
anything else. He is just a character witness. We have actually somehow wrangled him into the scene of the crime when he had admitted that he hasn't actually been at the scene of the crime. So that's a rather interesting twist of events there, Mr. Blue Atlas. You've pulled a bit of a blinder on that one. Whether that's to your benefit or not, you'll find out at the end. But if you don't have any further line of questioning, we can dismiss the witness.
Okay. I do have one more line of questioning.
Go ahead then.
As you talked with the prosecution, my mafia, you mentioned how she began an interest in electronics.
Yes.
Would you say that that could be used as evidence as to why she purchased the HTC Vive full body tracking asset?
I don't know if that was the exact reason, but that could have been a contributing factor.
So you would say that she gained a significant interest in electronics, as you said with her?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Atlas. You may return to your seat. Mr. Mick, your cooperation in this case has been vastly appreciated. You may return to the gallery. Thank you very much. Right, Miss Snow, you may return to your seat. An interesting witness, to say the least. We've got some rather interesting things brought up there, some stuff that I have taken note of and will refer to in Judge's summary. If I remember, I have to remember a lot of shit, I'm a robot. Mr. Mafia, would you like to call Miss Snowy to the stand for questioning or not?
I don't think so.
Very well, Mr. Atlas, for the prosperity of court, would you like to call Miss Snowy to the stand or not?
I would, Your Honour.
Very well, we shall allow the defence to call to the stand and the prosecution the chance to cross-examine if required. We'll try and keep this short, though, if you don't mind, Mr. Atlas. I've just realised I have a convention to attend that I forgot about. Although we do have to do the Pledge of Honesty before we can begin. Miss Snowy, you must repeat the phrase after me exactly as I say it to be sworn in on the Pledge of Honesty. Are you ready? This is where you have to verbally communicate, Miss Snowy. With your mouth. You know? Ah! Ah! 5. Oh!
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes, I was about to dismiss you from the witness stand. Do you understand what I just said? Yes? Are you ready to repeat after me?
Yes.
Excellent. I, Snowy 8656.
I, Snowy 8656.
Promise to tell the truth,
Promise to tell the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth,
and nothing but the truth.
lest I accidentally,
Wait, what?
lest I accidentally
Lest I accidentally
break my aunt's headset
break my aunt's headset,
and she gets really, really cross at me
And she was really cross at me.
and I have to go to bed without any tea.
And I have to go to bed without any tea.
So help me God.
so help me God.
Thank you, Miss Snowy, or Mr. Snowy. Snowy, I'm going to refer to you. Mr. Atlas, as you did call the witness to the stand, you may proceed with your questioning first. Mr. Mafia, you may object as you see fit, and will be given the chance to cross-examine if you so desire. Go ahead, Mr. Atlas.
I might not be able to hear him at some points.
One moment, Mr. Atlas. I do
Okay.
believe that we may have lost the prosecution. They appear to have taken this rather frozen
Wait.
pose, which is a normal sign of disconnection. Oh,
He's back, he's back.
are you okay, Mr. Mafia? Can't hear you, old boy. Can't hear you.
Sorry,
I
I muted my
can't hear
mic. I
you.
went to take a sip of water.
Oh, I wish you'd told me that because we were about to wait
still
for you to
listening, though.
disconnect.
I was like
Okay.
holding it up.
Okay, Mr. Atlas, apologies. You may begin your questioning now. The mushroom has returned to the realms of Earth. Are we on Earth? What country are we in? We're in the... Not in the fucking US, Jesus Christ. Can we go back to North Korea?
Okay, so Snowy.
Better.
You remember purchasing the 5 body tracking and headset, right?
Yes.
Okay. And see if you cross-reference the time date shown on the receipt, if the judge would so kindly. Okay, and there, as you can see, clearly purchased the Vive headset the day your accident happened involving the clock, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you could also say is that it would be completely impossible for you to be at 2 places at the same time. Now, if I do say so myself, I'd say that is quite ridiculous. Nobody can be at 2 places at the same time. It's simply just impossible. So, how
Well-
could you be purchasing a 5 body tracking and robbing a bank at the same time? Now,
I don't know.
see any...
You know what?
Yeah.
It might have not been me. It might have been my twin sister. It might have been my twin sister. Like
I'm just
she's
going to
very mean
interrupt
to
for a
me.
moment to remind Mr. Atlas that he is allowed to tell his client to shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up.
I can be able to hear him
Trying to-
most of the time.
I'm trying to stop you from being sent to the gulag.
Ooh,
Yeah.
gulags. Goulash.
Yes.
Turn him into goulash.
Okay, so Okay, so Miss Snowy, do you know how to use a firearm?
No.
Okay. Now, may I question the prosecution?
Question the prosecution?
Is that alright?
Do you mean you want to propose a question to him?
Prosecutioner. Propose question to him, sorry.
If Mr. Mafia will allow you to propose a question, I suppose I'll let it go. This has never been done before. So, Mr. Mafia, will you accept a question from the defence?
I accept.
Mr. Atlas, go ahead with your
Thank
question.
you, thank you, you're right. I already fucking... Oh, Christ. Hold on.
Don't panic. Don't worry.
I'm gonna remember. See, as you brought into evidence the stacks of money that she supposedly robbed from the bank, right?
Correct.
Now, as you know, money from the bank, it goes back and forth. Everyone in the city, as you say. So it doesn't matter if fingerprints were found on the money because it could have come from Snowy at any point in time.
Right, but we have 2 other positive pieces of DNA linked to her. And unless her twin sister has identical DNA as her,
Yeah,
which
that's
is very
true.
unlikely, then it was probably not her twin sister, who was also not present to attest to that at the moment.
Yeah.
That is all.
Oh, hang on. She can come here right now.
Miss Snowy, I am not having another fucking witness in this case. I'd like to be able to retire in the next century, personally.
I mean, like, on my headset. She can use my headset.
Miss Snowy, that's not how
She's like
VR
in the
courtroom
the same
works. Your
person.
schizophrenia will not allow you to do this.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm stupid.
So-
I'm so stupid.
You are, but we
So-
let you
so-
slide
so-
because it's
shut the fuck up.
courtroom.
Shut the fuck up.
Hey, excuse me, did you tell them to shut the fuck up or me to shut the fuck up?
I told Snowy to shut the fuck up.
Very good, carry on. Just wanted to make sure. I don't want to have to throw my gavel at you like this.
Kangaroo.
Can you pass my gavel back to me now, please? I kind of threw it at you. I threw
got
it. Mr. Tira, fetch my gavel. I threw it at him.
Oh, there you go. Okay,
Lovely,
now,
thank you.
To my mafia. Did you
Thank you.
also mention that the key
There you go.
and coin were also found in the bin, or was it only the gun and the money?
The key and the coin, much like the lighter, were found at the scene. The money was in the bag. The other evidence was not. It was found around the crime scene, just like the lighter and the cigarette, which were left out front. Possibly because of carelessness.
Now,
You know?
I don't
You got a lot of
see any-
adrenaline going on, you're not thinking clearly, people make mistakes when they're scared.
Was the serial numbers on the
Go for it.
banknotes
Just what we do.
cross-referenced with the ones from the bank to say that they were from the bank, or they could have been bank? Were they from the bank?
I mean, they're all banded together in the same bag with
Sorry.
her DNA on it. In a trash can
How
outside
do
of
you
that
know
specific
that?
bank. Why would there be other notes from other banks randomly assembled into a trash bag with her DNA on it outside of a bank with multiple other pieces of evidence with her DNA on it?
So you would say that the money in
I
the
think
bin...
I think that what you're asking me is irrelevant.
I'm going to continue likewise. So you're saying the money you found in the bin wasn't marked to the bank? Is that what you're saying? However, it was found next to the bank at the scene of the crime.
What are you implying?
I'm implying that if these bills that you're saying was found in the trash, they're not marked to the bank, they couldn't have possibly come from the bank. And, you know, in this state, it is in fact legal to have a concealed carry weapon on you. So let's just say it doesn't matter if she had a gun. I don't see any actual evidence, maybe, how would you say, evidence or a report from a morgue solidifying the death of the police officer she supposedly murdered. Now, I don't think Snowy She's capable of murder, or she's a loving family woman. Now, again,
The
using
sound clip
the receipt, sound
Oh
clip.
yes. Oh yeah.
that you submitted sounded a lot more like a gunshot to me.
Yeah, sounds like a gunshot to me
So-
too. Oh,
That does not sound like a revolver then. Okay, I don't know what happened with
I
that,
heard a
as
chamber.
anything. That was meant to be a glass, and I would like to use it as my evidence, because you did hear the glass smash, didn't you?
The court
Press
assistant
it,
cannot
the
be
glass
used
smash.
by a prosecution or a defence lawyer in their cases. They are a member of the court, and it will be deemed unfair to use them in that way. That's like saying the judge is my witness. Can't be.
Yeah, got it. I was just saying because, you know...
Oh, I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but the evidence hasn't gone your way, so you just kind of have to run with what you're given.
Yeah, of course. Now, what you could say is, if we refer back to the photo of her in VRchat, should be podium number 4.
7.
Yeah, that was it. Now...
Right, terribly sorry about that. Occasionally my programming makes me go to Timbuktu for some reason, which I don't understand. Carry on, Mr. Atlas, if you don't mind.
Thank you very much. Now, I would
Thank you,
say
Mr.
the
Tyrion.
song that
No, you.
Miss Snowy was listening to did in fact have gunshots in the background. It was the music she was playing while she was dancing to the aliens in the Great Bug. Now, it would make sense, and I would say it's because I wasn't there, that the music was interfering with the headset, which caused the gunshot from the music to be implemented into the recording instead of the actual, I don't know, the breaking of the clock. But maybe that was before or after, don't know. But it had to be before she was dancing it. Yeah.
Might I ask a question quickly, Mr. Atlas, just out of judge's curiosity? Oh, the picture's disappeared from me. So, you say that she was pole dancing in that rather skimpy outfit, is that correct?
Of course.
Where the hell is the gun?
Oh, no. It was the music she was playing. Through the bars. Sounds.
Thank you. Carry on, Mr. Atlas, although please try and bring this to a close soon, if you don't mind.
Amazing
I will.
taste,
This will
sir.
be my final argument.
Mr. Tyrion,
Now,
would you
I would
mind just
say
going in the
the
back room
timestamps
and
on
picking
the
that
receipt.
picture up and putting it back on the podium so it loads for me, please?
Close the hole in the dark, bub.
Okay, so using the receipt and the timestamp on the receipt, including her credit card and her information, including address, would suggest she was in fact home.
Holy crap, they have my
Not
mother
home
as
when
a-
she purchased it. But using the timestamp, you could tell that she was in fact home,
There.
using
Thank
the
you.
Vive full body tracking, and was not in fact robbing a bank.
What do you mean, what do I say?
Now, so I'm sorry, did you recover a bullet or a report from the morgue
Yeah, that's my name,
So-
baby.
to show that the police officer was actually dead, and you didn't just have a badge? or
Many
something?
things are done in the meat of
Or
passion.
I don't think it would have
Jimbo.
been admitted into court as evidence if it was not legitimate evidence.
Look
Do you
at
think I
this
just asked a
screen.
police officer for his badge?
No, I don't think so. Any number of
You're
versions
right.
in the badge.
For a kangaroo court?
Hey, at least she does family for free. You gotta get that family discount, you know what I mean, baby?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Mr. Alex. Mr. Mafia, would you like to cross-examine the witness on the stand?
I don't.
Very well, then. In that case, I thank you for your questioning, Miss Snowy. You are technically dismissed, but please remain seated there. So, witness questioning, as I mentioned earlier on, the segment of court that always takes the longest, and some rather interesting questions and admissions and twists and turns in this case. Lots of things I've taken into consideration, and a few points where I'm sure you've seen the wry smile on my face as I've asked questions myself, so very good. We're now going to move on to amendments, which I've mentioned before. Amendments, of course, any part of your case that you would like to change based on new evidence. You do not have to make any amendments if you don't want to, and the opposing lawyer may object to amendments that you try to make. The court may or may not accept amendments to your case depending on the severity of them. So, nice and simple, really. Mr. Mafia, would you like to make any amendments to your case as you have currently presented it?
I do not.
Very well. Mr. Atlas, would you like to make any amendments to your case as you have currently presented it?
Oh, I have a question, Your Honour.
Go ahead.
Wait, does that mean I can go into evidence and grab some new evidence?
No.
One thing really quickly. Okay, then no, Your Honour.
Very well, thank you then, gentlemen. So we're going to move on to the last facet of court at the moment that the lawyers are openly involved in, which is the closing statement. Closing statements, much like opening statements, are short and concise statements about your case. You may reference evidence in your case this time and things that have been said by the accused, the other lawyer, myself, Itiru, or Susan, as I'm going to call her in the gallery with Soldier Girl. So, yes, nice and simple, really. And I'm going to let the defence make their closing statement first. Mr. Blue Atlas, if you would please take a stand and make your closing statement to the court. This is the last thing the lawyers have to do. All the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Your Honour. Thank you. My closing statement, I would say a couple of things. Trying to keep it brief. Don't want to hold anyone up. Fine. Stand close to you. Right, so I'm just basically summarising my...
Your case, why they're not guilty, why you think they're not guilty, you know, that sort of thing. Nice and short, minute, 2 minutes max sort of thing.
So, what I'm saying is using the evidence that I've gathered and put on from Podium number 5 to 8, that it would be completely impossible for her to be robbing a bank and purchasing a VR headset at the same time with cash and a card and have a receipt to church, which is no longer been up there. Now, I also brought the clock into evidence, followed by noise from the music she was playing, provided also with a photo of then she just proceeded to go to bed, and I've got a DNA sample of the people. And yeah, well, you know, you can't be in two places then. So I'm just gonna keep meeting her. So, yeah, I rest my case.
Thank you very much for your closing statement to the court, Mr. Atlas. You may return to your seat. Mr. Mafia, I shall now lend you the floor to make your closing statement to the court. Please go right ahead, my friend.
Okay, I'll keep this short
What
too.
is going on here?
You can... We've seen a lot of different pieces of evidence tonight. I trust that everybody understands that what is important is that there is an overwhelming amount of evidence that shows that she was at that time, at that place, timestamps, distractions, you know, timestamps can be modified, distractions can be made, but at the end of the day you have to look at what we know and what can be proven. And we can prove that her DNA was at the crime scene in multiple locations, and it happened on that day. That is all.
Thank you for your closing statement, Mr. Mafia. You were true to your word, a nice, short and concise closing statement. And with that, we technically bring our court case to an end. The jobs of the lawyers have ended, and now it moves on to the job of the judge. Going to say straight away that I'm pleased with both cases that have been presented to me. For fledgling lawyers just out of law school and inexperienced, I'm genuinely pleased with what's been put forward. It's been generally quite cohesive, with your evidence fitting in quite nicely to the story you're backing up, without too many disrespectful interruptions, but an understanding that cases may need to change slightly based on what witnesses say. So, big congratulations to the pair of you. And now we're going to move on to the judge's summary, which is my favourite bit. This is where I shall go through every piece of evidence in the order they have been presented, and explain how I've interpreted them towards the case. I'd like to point out that there are no objections during this time period and no interruptions, although I may ask you to reiterate a point if I have forgotten, which does happen. We will go through items, and I will probably speak about witnesses at the same time. So I get to do this now, and this, and yes, we'll go up there. Yes, that gets to sit there, and I get to start talking. So we started with the defence's case of Mr. Blue Atlas, starting with evidence number 5, which was... Oh, God, there were two things here, and one's disappeared. What was the first thing? What's the first thing that's disappeared from me, darling?
The clock. Wait, what was it? The lighter, I think?
No. What's on the screen right now?
Oh, there's a photo and there's a cassette tape.
Okay, so that was it. Yes, we had a photo of how the game of VRchat had been purchased by Miss Snowy. The game in question being this, not VHS, tape cassette style of Rick Astley's Never Going to Give You Up is interpreted as a copy of VRchat. Now, in reality, that could be very true because VRchat could run on a potato, so I'm obliged to believe that VRchat could also be held on a tape like this. I do believe that the defense had mentioned that VRchat was being run on something like an Amiga A600 or a Spectrum ZX. This would be entirely believable as the games did indeed come in those cartridges, but we're building character here that she brought the game. We moved on to 6, implying that she particularly liked the game. All the evidence has disappeared from me. It's very frustrating. But she particularly liked the game so much so that she decided she wanted to do full body tracking, and so went out with a selection of money and cards to buy 3 VR tracking parts for her, it was a Vive, I believe, headset, with a receipt that indicated the time it was purchased and the money spent. An interesting point made a lot was that the time matches. The time was this. But neither lawyer ever actually put a time forward. There was never a specific time of a robbery. There was never a specific time of a murder of a police officer. There was never a specific time of a purchase or a specific time that Miss Snowy logged into her account. Therefore, most of the time-based arguments were a complete waste of time. Sorry, Mr. Atlas, we're past that point at this point. Now, Mr. Tiro, I believe I asked you to look up if you could T-pose in full body tracking. Did you look that up for me?
I mean, I don't have, leg trackers, but I could do this.
We're going to assume it is somewhat possible to do a T-pose in full body tracking, so I don't know if the defense's case really fits out there, but I understand the point they were making, that she was very much addicted to playing this game, and the first thing she did when she started playing the game was basically went to a strip club in VRchat. Very interesting strip club, this, surrounded by aliens. Now, I've seen much different things, naturally the Great Pug, to be fair, which, fair enough, I've seen worse things in the Great Pug for certain. So she's in the Great Pug having a great time with aliens, and probably the closest she'll ever get to some men, when all of a sudden, there is a horrific sound! Now, it was alleged before the sound was played by the judge, if you will, that it was the smashing of a clock. However, the sound there is very clearly a firearm, and the defense very quickly amended it that she had somehow managed to shoot the clock off the wall, not smash it. Now, this is interesting because normally when I do VR-related things, my hands have controllers in them, and I know if I had a firearm in my hand. So how Miss Snowy managed to miss the fact that there was a firearm in her hand when she fired is irrelevant. But one thing we did have here that was never technically referenced or mentioned was the time, which was 4:20. That is when she was in the Great Pug doing her thing. Mr. Apollo, please return to the gallery. Thank you. That's when she was in the Pug doing horrific things. Interesting. Once again, not referenced, though. And, we moved on to 8, which then implied that she went and had some food and had a drink and brushed her teeth and combed her hair and went to bed early before the time of the robbery. However, she was also in the Great Pug doing stuff like this at the time of the robbery, and T-posing is all a bit weird, and shot a clock, which was 4:45, and went to bed before the time of the robbery, meaning she would have gone to bed at 3:45? 4 p.m.? The robbery, allegedly, probably would have been about 4:45, the time she was at home playing VRchat, but she broke the clock at there. You see the logical fallacies of not mentioning a time here. It's kind of thrown it off a little bit, but it happened, so that was roughly the defence's case as I interpreted it. We had a few modifications as we went through. Witness questioning in particular tried to link the character witness who has departed, fair enough, to her, and she went from being at home and then in her aunt's apartment, then somehow playing VR on the ship she was serving on when she knew the character witness who hadn't witnessed the crime or necessarily been around her at the time. It all became a bit convoluted and a bit thrown off the wall here, like the defense was very strongly reacting to cases and kind of building up this wall made out of shit, and it kind of fell over, unfortunately. Which does happen from time to time if you're not ready, but the basic defense's case was she were playing VR chat and did Gondon break that, and then she went to bed. Fair enough. We then moved on to the prosecution's case, starting with a lighter and a cigarette. I'll point out that all of the evidence that Mr. Atlas DNA tested did come out as positive, meaning that everything like the trackers and so forth were actually related to the victim. Now we move on to the prosecution's case, who started with a cigarette lighter and a cigarette, because you need to have a cigarette to calm your nerves before you do something quite horrific. And this is when we learned that the horrific crime was a robbery done in the state of T-posing, because let's be fair, I've got full body tracking. Nobody's going to accuse me of robbing a bank, and then they went ahead and robbed a bank whilst T-posing. Allegedly. This item was fingerprint tested and came back positive. We then moved on to the mobile telephone and the screwdriver. This was what was necessarily used to rob the bank, I believe, as a weapon as such, the screwdriver being fingerprint tested and a confirmed match to have been used by Miss Snowy. Defense never necessarily put forward a reason as to why this item may have fingerprints on, but that can be a hard thing to do in the moment anyway, so that's absolutely fine. Mobile telephone was just a mobile telephone, never came up with the idea of GPS tracking or anything along those lines to indicate where she was, which is a little bit awkward, but it is what it is. There's a lot of noise in the gallery, so just got to do that. Yay, I love the mute button. Everybody's muted, I feel really bad. I muted the wrong person, god damn it. Who's talking?
No.
It's you. It's you. I see you behind the Prosecution. Anyway, enough of that shit. So, weapon use, fair enough, fingerprint scanning. We then moved on to number 3, and this was a police badge and a police gun belonging to an officer who was killed, allegedly by the T-posing accused. Not 100% sure of how the murder happened. I don't remember if it was stabbed or if they were shot. I believe the gun belonged to the officer who was shot, which is fair enough. That would potentially work out with the gunfire sound effect. This was pointed out by the defense that this sound effect may have come from the music in the pub kind of cocking up and playing that, as the song playing at the time had firearms. Jesus Christ, why is my life such a pain in the ass? But that, and then we moved on to the things that were stolen, which was money, gold coins, which one was referenced, a diamond ring, and a key. The large amount of money was tested and had the fingerprints of the accused on them. Every single piece of fingerprint evidence came back as positive, which is an incredible rarity in this, but came back as positive. These items were found in a bag in a bin near the bank, implied by the prosecution that Miss Snowy had disposed of them, perhaps because she couldn't log them, she wasn't strong enough, perhaps she was going to come back later, perhaps she was going to take a job as a bin man and empty the bin and take it home. So, a rather interesting case put forward with a lot of, not necessarily DNA evidence, as fingerprints aren't technically DNA, they're prints left behind by the imprints of your fingers, but that wasn't questioned by the defense. Could have picked you out there, wouldn't really done much for you, but there was that. There is a guy literally in the ceiling, and I think I've seen everything today, and it's my first day back for a while. Ceiling guy. So, as I said, we had witnesses as well. Oh, my camera has gone fucky-wucky. Oh, for God's sake. Bear with me for a second. Come on. Oh, for fuck's sake. There we go. That can go over there now. Fuck you. Right. Now, where was I? Something about witnesses. Oh, yes, we had the witnesses. We listened to Miss Snowy's account. I Didn't think that anything particularly useful came out of Snowy outside of character references. It was a little bit confused again. We had a mention of a twin sister, somewhat irrelevant in this case, I do believe. And outside of the character witnessing, there wasn't really anything particularly useful in the witnesses I found towards the case. Some interesting questions going on between the prosecution and the defence. But once again, nothing that was solidified, if you will. The only information I really drew out was that I've forgotten this, and this is the question that I ask, and that's going to annoy me greatly, because for one thing, as I mentioned before, she's gone from being in her apartment to her aunt's apartment to a ship, and then there was another occasion she was in, so lots of things changed, and I'm not very good at this if you can't tell. But that's roughly as I have anticipated, deciphered, what's the word? Done the case. That's what I think about it. And all in all, it's a case I'm quite pleased. I've seen it. I'm quite pleased with what I've seen. It's a little bit rough and ready, but you can expect that from fairly new lawyers. But I do think, welcome back, Mr. McMick, I do think it's time to end this charade of the judge talking shit and trying to remember everything that's gone on. So, based on the cases that have been presented to me, I do believe that although the defence spoke a very good game and was very confident in what they were saying, the amount of contradictions in their case due to changing evidence and the way they change things over and over rather than rolling with it don't necessarily play well into a vector of believability. One of the major flaws in the case was the lack of time, as pointed out by either lawyer. We didn't have date, we didn't have time, we only had the word of a receipt indicating when she had purchased this VR. The closest list of time, as mentioned, was the clock at 20 past 4, and this was never technically brought up, so it's hearsay. But at the end of the day, I don't think in good conscience that I can necessarily go with the word of the defence. I think that the evidence presented by the prosecution, although flawed in some regards with some interesting holes picked apart, paints a much stronger case, and therefore I find Miss Snowy not guilty of the crime of T-posing. However, I find her guilty of the crime of first-degree murder and bank robbery, and therefore I sentence her to death by being put through a wood chipper, toes first, very, very slowly, and preferably with lots of screaming.
I feel terrible about what I've done.
Don't. Trust me, that's actually quite a nice death compared to some of the ones I do.
Death by Snoop Snoop.
Technically, I did my job because that she wasn't in fact T-posing.
There was no proof of T-posing, because you obviously went with what she was doing while she was T-posing. It's like...